What's going on, you guys? Clint here. Welcome back to the channel, CodeCommerce. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can incorporate Next.js 13 and Firebase. We're going to be using Google Authentication. Okay, so let me give you a quick example. This is my my demo right here. So right now we're on a main page. We have an about page. So let's go ahead and sign in here. We see this quick pop-up. Now I've already authenticated. So now you can see, welcome Clint Briley. It gives me an option to sign out. Also, we have a profile page, in which you didn't see before. It says, welcome Clint. You are now logged into the profile page, which is a protected route. If we refresh, we're going to have that nice little spinner GIF in there, and then we go ahead and sign out. So if you can see how I built this, we're conditionally rendering, by the way, the profile page and also our login information here. So again, if you want to see how I built this, Next.js 13, Firebase, Google Authentication, let's go ahead and get started. So here I am in VS Code. I'm already in the working directory. I want to be in just a folder by the name of next firebase/auth or -auth. So what I'm going to do is open my terminal here with the Control Backtick button, and let's go ahead and install Next.js. So I'm going to type npx create-next-app. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a period there so we know to install this in the current directory. Okay. So we're not going to be using TypeScript for this, no linter. We are going to be using Tailwind, no source, app router, yes, and then no. And this is going to create our Next.js application. So if you're new to Tailwind, by the way, which we're using in here, it's pretty easy to pick up and understand. We're just going to use it very minimally. There's not going to be much styling in here, obviously, but it's just something we can write really, really quickly. So while this is creating our new, whoa, that was it. Okay, cool. So, and if you might have known, if you watch my channel, I'm actually on a PC that I built about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now. My Mac was giving me some issues, so it might be time for a new one. So let's go and type npm run dev. What that's going to do is start up my development server. Yours will be on 3000. My demo is running on 3000, so I'm going to cruise over to 3001. So this is our Next.js 13 application. Looks just like the Next.js 12 and all the other ones. So let's go ahead and first what we want to do, I'm going to go into this app directory here, and this is where we're going to edit all our code. We're just going to stay inside this app directory. So let's go into this page.js, and this is what you see right here, all this stuff in here. Now I'm going to delete everything within the main tag. So select that div, and let's delete that entire div in there, okay? And let's delete all this here. We'll leave the P24, but we're going to change that to P4. And what that's referring to is the padding. So Tailwind goes by multiples of 4. So P4 is just like saying padding 1 rem. So, and we'll just have an H1 in here, H2. And we'll just say home page, something like that, okay? So now we should see our homepage. There we have it. Now what I want to do first off, let's go ahead and create our routes. So this is how we're going to create routes in Next.js 13. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a folder, and whatever we name this folder is going to be the name of our route. So we're going to create an about page. So what we do is name the folder about, and then here we just name this JS file, page.jsx or JS, either one. Our AFC is going to get our functional component, and this is going to be called about page, just like that. And we'll give this just a little bit class name P4 for a little bit of padding. So let's just go to the about page, and there you have it. We have an about page. So let's do the same thing for our profile page, again, inside our app directory. So I'm going to create a new file here, but instead of the little shortcut, what I'm going to say is profile /page.jsx, and what that's going to do is just create the same thing that we just did. So RAFCE, and we'll call this the profile page. And again, I'm just going to give this a little bit of class name, a little padding. So profile, just to make sure that works. There we have it. Cool. Profile, about, and homepage. So next, let's go ahead and create a nav bar so that way we can kind of easily navigate throughout our app. Okay. So again, this is going inside the app directory here. We'll say components/navbar.jsx. RAFCE is going to generate our functional component. Now, in here, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and import this into our layout. So this is how Next.js 13 works. It kind of puts everything through our layout folder, or file rather, okay? So everything that Next.js is just loading this layout page, and then everything passes through this layout page. So we're going to put our nav bar here at the top. There you go. So mine auto imported. If yours didn't, make sure you import navbar from your components folder, or wherever you put it. And now you can see our navbar here at the top. So for our navbar, we're going to do a few things. Let's just go ahead and dev out kind of like the layout of it. So it's just a flex, real easy. It's going to be pretty minimal. Okay. So inside here, we'll say, give this, well, let's do this first. So we're going to have an unordered list, and then we're going to have a list item in here, and then we're actually going to use a link. Okay. So, and this is a Next.js component here. Whoops. There we have it. And we're just going to say home. And we'll just say /. Okay. So we have to import this. We're getting an error. We'll say we'll import link from next/link. And we actually need to put this in, there we go. Okay. So, and we're using a link. This is a lot easier. We don't have to use, if we use an href, then an anchor tag, it would reload the page, and we don't want that. So this is how we navigate throughout our page without a bunch of reloads. So what we want to do here, let's just go ahead, and I'm going to give it just a little bit of styling just to make it easy because we're going to copy this down. I'm going to say p2, then cursor pointer, and I'm going to give a little, what's the class name? I'm going to say h20 width full. I'm going to say border bottom 2, give it a little line there, flex, items center, and then we'll say justify between, and we'll give just a little bit of padding. We'll say p2. Okay. So there you have it. Looks pretty good. Now for this unordered list here, I'm going to say flex because we're going to have a couple things in here. So we'll say class name, we'll say flex, and then that's good. That's it for now. So for this list item, I'm just going to copy that down a couple times. Whoops. PC now, PC. So we'll have an about page here, and then we'll have our profile page. And this route is going to be /profile. And this one's going to be /about. Okay. So let's go ahead and make sure everything works. So yeah, we go to the about page and then the profile page as well. So looks pretty good right there. So, all right. So next, what we want to do is we're going to have our login and sign up there as well. So we're going to put this on our list just below this one. So we'll say unordered list, and we're going to say .flex just to go ahead and save a little bit of time. Then inside here, we're going to have a list item, and then we're going to have we'll have a login. And let's go ahead and give this a little bit of class name. We'll say P2 cursor pointer. So that way when you hover, see it log in there. There we go. Cool. Now let's go ahead and copy this down. Now we're not using an anchor tag or a link tag or anything like that. And that is because we are using, for our authentication for logging into Google, we're using a sign in with a pop-up instead of redirecting to an actual, we're not going to have a sign up page or a login page. We're just going to have a little pop-up. Okay. And Google, the Firebase is going to handle all of that for us, so we don't have to configure all of it. It's going to be pretty easy. So now that we have this set up, let's go ahead and so we're going to use Context API. It's something that React offers us to basically manage state throughout our application. It's pretty lightweight and easy to use compared to like something like Redux. So let's go ahead and get that running right now. So we're going to put this again inside of our app folder, create a new file, and we'll just say context/auth context.js. You can call it whatever you want. So creating a folder named context and their auth context. And inside here, it's pretty easy. We're going to import a few things. So we're going to need the use context. Oh, there you go. Nice little shortcut. We're going to need the create context. We're also going to be using use state and then the use effect as well. Okay. So let's give us some lines here. What we're going to need, we're going to say const. We're going to say, we need to import we need to use a create context first. Okay. So what we're going to say is const auth context. You can call it again, whatever you want, is create context, just like that. Next, whoa, there we go. Next, we'll export const auth context provider. Okay. We'll pass through children in here. Just like that. And then we're going to return. And what we're going to return is this auth context dot provider. So we'll say return auth context dot provider, just like that. We actually need to wrap this. Sorry, I'm gonna cut that. There we go. There we go. Perfect. And inside here, we'll just take in the children, and that kind of looks funny. So let's just give it some spacing. There we go. And then, excuse me, down here we'll export const. Say user auth. Not going to take anything, just an arrow function, and we'll say return use context auth context. Okay, there we have it. Now the last step for this is basically we're done setting up auth context or our context API. There's one more step we need to do, and that is inside our layout. Close this down. Our about page is in our layout here. There we go. So what we need to do inside of our layout page, we need to import this. Okay, and this is how we're going to do it. We'll say import auth context provider from /context auth context. Now we're getting an error here. You're importing a component that needs use effect. It only works in a client component. So by default, all Next.js components are server components. So it's saying basically we need to define this as a client side component. So we'll just say use client at the top. Now Next.js knows to render this as a client component. So we imported the auth context provider. Now we need to wrap our application with this provider. So we're going to do this inside of our body. We'll say auth context provider, just like that. And then we'll just move that down a little bit. Go ahead and save. There you have it. So we have our navbar, our children, basically any component or page that we want to have access to this state or functions or whatever we put in there needs to be wrapped within this auth context provider, kind of like a layer, and everything inside there has access to it. So, so that's kind of how that works. So we'll just close the layout for now. I believe we're done. We don't need to mess with it anymore. Now, if we were to put inside here we'll say const user set user equal to use state. And I'm just going to put my name just like that. Now we actually have to pass this through, okay, value. And we'll just say, not name, user. Now let's go into our navbar, for example, and we can actually pull this in and use it. So we'll at the top here, we'll say import user auth, just like that from our context file. And then inside here, we'll say const user equal to user auth. Whoops, that's not right. Uh-oh. Let's just start over. Equal to user auth, just like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and save. Now we have access to this. Anything in here, we can put anything here. We can put state, we can put functions in here, and that's what we're about to do. So now we pass this through as a user to our auth context provider. We've wrapped our application in the layout.js. Now we can use anything that we have wrapped, which again, this navbar is within this auth context provider, so we now have access to it. So if we console.log user, we should see what we put in there, which is my name. So let's just look at the console if we did it right. Yep, refresh there, you can see it. There it is. So this is a way to manage state throughout your application, which is fairly easy to do. Okay, so we can go and delete that console log. So next, what we want to do is let's go into our auth context.js and let's start defining some functions to let's go ahead and set up. Let's go ahead and set up Firebase, right? So we're able to log in with Google here. So we'll go to firebase.google.com. Okay, go ahead and click on Get Started. You will have to be authenticated with Google. It's a free account, so don't worry about that. Let's create a new one. You're 2 projects away. Okay, so I'm going to call this Next.js auth YouTube, something like that, or auth project. Okay, cool. We're going to disable the Google Analytics. We don't need any of that for this project. Go ahead and click Start, and this is going to create our project in Firebase. Now, Firebase offers a lot of different tools and services. The one that we're using in this video, of course, is Authentication. And then there's a bunch of different authentication routes you can go. We also, they have databases. They have like Firestore. They also have a real-time database. So what we did is just create our project, right? So within our project, we have to go ahead and set up, excuse me, like services that we want to use within Firebase. So let's click on this web. They have iOS, Android. This is a web app. And we can call this anything. We'll say auth, just like that, kind of auth project or YouTube, whatever. Create our project. And what this is going to do is spit out some code for us. So first thing we need to do is install Firebase. Let's just copy that. We'll stop our server, npm install Firebase. If you're using yarn, it'd be yarn add Firebase. And while that's installing, let's go ahead and grab this code here. And you guys, this code here, these values, key value pairs, are unique to your account. So I'm going to put this on GitHub, of course. Oh, it always does that. I'm going to throw these on GitHub, so feel free to make sure we created everything. There weren't any errors. There we go. So feel free to download, clone this repo. Again, this I'm going to remove all these key value pairs because they're unique. They're secrets. You don't want to share these with anybody. So make sure you get your own. It's free. So still, there'll probably be some people saying it doesn't work because these key value pairs aren't there. But either way, let's go ahead and go into our app folder here. And again, we'll just say firebase.js. And we're going to put this, we're going to put all of this, paste it in here. And that's what we need to do. So this is our main Firebase information for our configuration. And then if we want to add on any extras, as you can see here, it says to add SDKs for Firebase products that you want to use, visit this right here. So cool. So we can do that. So next we'll go ahead and let's scroll back up. Build authentication. Again, if you saw that authentication, Firestore database, real-time database, lots of cool stuff in here. So authentication, and click get started. So there's all different ways we can authenticate users. We can use the email and password, via phone, Google, which is what we're doing in this video, Facebook, Play Games, Game Center. Not sure what some of these are, but GitHub, sign with GitHub, Yahoo. So lots of cool things. We'll go ahead and click on Google here. And we need to enable this and just click a support email. Just the one I'm using. I don't get emails to this, so please don't email me. Again, some of you probably will. I don't check this. I just use it for random accounts like this. All right. So now we have our project created. We need to import whatever services, Firebase services we may be using, just like it tells us to do. So we'll click on go to docs right there. Let's see, build. We're looking at authentication, web, click get started. We should have it. There we go. So we need to import get auth. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy that and we'll paste that right there. There we go. Now we need to export this. We'll use this here. We need to import this here or reference it there, but we actually need to export this since we put it in a separate file. Okay. So that's all we need to do. We can go ahead and close that. Now, and we're done with our Firebase. We're done with our Firebase .js file here. We can go ahead and close that. Again, make sure you get your own key value pairs. You guys, it's not going to work if you just clone this and use. You can clone it and then sign up for Firebase and that'll work, but don't use mine. All right, so inside of our auth context here, this is where we're going to have our functions. We're going to go and import a few of them, and these are all. I'm just going to follow along the demo here. If you want to go in and look at all of these here, they have a sign in with pop-up, a sign in with redirect. We're going to need a few of their functions that they offer. So let's go ahead and say not const. We need to import. And some of the things we're going to need to be importing, we're going to say sign in. See, there you go. All these sign in with pop-up is what we want. We also want the sign out. We're going to want the on auth state changed, and then also a Google auth provider. There we go. And then we're importing that from Firebase /auth. There we go. And then also, I forgot this part right here. Inside of, sorry, not our layout. Inside of our Firebase.js, we exported this auth. We need to import that inside this auth here. We need to import that inside here. So we'll just say import auth from wherever our Firebase file is. Okay, so there we have it, you guys. So next, let's go ahead and use some of these functions. So we're going to be using the Google sign-in function. So let's come down here and actually go below our state there. We're going to leave this state, but instead of client, let's just change this, your name, whatever you put in there, just set it to null for now. Okay, and we're actually going to leave it at null. We don't need to change it again. So we'll say const Google sign-in is what I'm going to call my Google sign-in function. Okay, and then what we're going to say in here, we'll say const provider is equal to new Google auth provider, just like that. And then we'll say sign in with pop-up, and that's going to take in the auth and also this provider here. Okay, and then while we're at it, let's go ahead and do our sign out function. So we'll say const, I'm going to call it log out, so our sign out functions, what the Firebase is calling it. So we'll say sign out, and we need to pass in auth. There we go. And now we need a way to manage who's logged in, when we navigate throughout our application. Okay, so we're going to do this with use effect. We'll say use effect. Okay, and then we're going to say const unsubscribe, just like that. And we'll say on auth state changed, and we're going to take in the auth there, auth, and the current user. Call it whatever you like. And we'll set our user to the current user, just like that. And then we need to return messed up there, unsubscribe. There we go. And we can get rid of that there. Cool. And then instead of a dependency array or an empty array, we'll just say, I'm going to change this, run it whenever the user is updated. So let's go ahead and save that. Now, just like we passed in our state for our user, we also need to pass in any other functions methods that you declare in here. So our Google sign in being one of them. There we go. Our log out, and then that's it. Okay. So there we have it. Let's go ahead and start up our development server again, npm run dev. Now, similarly to importing like we did for the state for the user, let's go back into our nav bar here, and what we want to do is import these functions as well, or declare these functions. So with our user there, we're also going to have a Google sign in, then also our sign out. So we'll say Google sign in and log out, I think is what we called it. Log out. So again, once we pass functions through our auth context provider, or whatever you named your provider, and your context, you can actually just pull it in there and have access to these throughout your application. You just have to make sure you import it from these two lines. So handle sign in is what we're going to call this function. We'll say const handle sign in, just like that. And this is going to be an asynchronous function here. So we'll say async. And what we're going to say is we're going to use a try catch. I believe that's what they use in their documents here and their documentation. I believe it's a try catch. So we'll say try, we want to await Google sign in. And then we'll say catch the error, and we'll just console.log the error. Okay. Let's go ahead and save that there. Perfect. Now, let's go ahead, and we need a way to run this function. So we'll add an on click down here. We'll say on click. Handle sign in. And you know what? Let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing to this one. Since we're signing in with a Google account, signing in and signing up is actually just going to be the same. So kind of easier for us. So let's go ahead and save that. Now, if we go back here, our users, hopefully if we log in, if we haven't done anything wrong, let's see what happens. So I'm going to click log in. You see this pop up here, choose an account. So this is my Google account here. Let's see what happened. And let's go in here. Getting some errors there. Encoding. And there you have it. So I'm now authenticated, okay? And we have access to all my Google information inside of my Firebase projects. It's pretty cool. So let's take care of this error. I saw this the other day. I think we just need to install, can't resolve encoding. I'm going to type npm I encoding. That should take care of that. All right, sorry about that. And then let's go ahead and start development server back up. Hopefully that takes care of that. Now that we're authenticated, but you can't tell. All you see is the same thing. So let's go ahead and do a few things here. So on our nav bar, I just noticed that it says login and login. You guys probably saw that. So what we're going to say in here is that running? Refresh. There we go. So for our nav bar, if we're logged in, we want to display some different information other than log in or sign up. And also this profile page here, this route, we only want to show this if we're authenticated. Okay. So, and before we do that, let's go ahead and hook up our sign out function here as well. So we can just take care of that. So under here, we'll say const handle sign out, just like that. And this is going to be an asynchronous function. So we'll say async. And again, we're doing the try catch. So we'll say try, and we'll say await, log out. That's what we have. And then catch, error, and console.log. Keep getting blown up on texting here. Then we have our handle sign out. And so we need a sign out button, right? So if we're authenticated, if we're signed in, then we want to say something like welcome client, welcome name, and then also a sign out. And if we're not authenticated, we're going to leave that as is. So let's go ahead and say down here, right above this unordered, this UL here for the flex, what we're going to say is we'll open up our curly brackets here, and we'll say if there's no user, okay, if there's no user, then we're going to render out something else. We're going to render out something else. So if no user is true, then we want to render out this here. I'm just going to cut that. Yep, paste it in there. If we don't have a user, then we're going to say log in and sign up. And if false, then what we're going to display, we'll have a div here. Then inside here, and as you can see, we're actually authenticated, so we don't see anything here because it's empty div. We'll say welcome, welcome client or name, and then we'll have a p tag that says sign out. Okay, and on click, we can handle sign out. Yeah, handle sign out. So let's go ahead and I'm going to give this a class name, cursor, pointer. That was bugging me. There we go. So we click that, and now we're signed out. We can refresh, and we'll sign in. Now, I just typed my name in here, Clint, but we're going to actually grab this from our profile. So we refresh. We see that. And I know we have that little refresh page, which is kind of annoying. We're going to take care of that as well. So, but this is hard-coded in here. How do we access how do we access our name from Google? Okay. And we're going to do that right now. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to console.log right here, the user. Okay. So this is all the information we're getting back from Google. So if we look at this, we have access token, display name. That's my name. We have an email address. Are we verified? Yes. A photo URL, which by the way here, let's go ahead and copy this. And this is that little square with like the initial in there, or if you actually have a photo. I don't know if you can see that. Gosh, it's small. Let's sign in. I don't know why that's so small, but yeah, there it is. That was crazy. So yeah, lots of information in here. So, and here we have a unique user ID. If you want to store like user specific data inside of like a database or something like that. So let's go ahead and drop that down. So how do we grab the name? So we have the user, so we just need the name, which they call it display name. So instead of hard-coding the name, what we can say is display name is what it should be. Display name. And that's actually going to be my entire name. So if you want to cut that and just make it like first name, or you could do the email and just show the email address, whatever. So that's cool. So there we have it. That looks pretty good there. Now, if we refresh, you can actually see that it blinks some content right there. It flashes some content, and we don't want that. That's kind of a poor user experience. Doesn't really look that great. So we're going to manage that with some state. So let's come up here, and we're just going to make a new use state here at the top. We'll say const loading, and we'll say set loading, just like that, equal to use state. And by default, we're going to set this to true. Okay. And so, and what we're going to say down here, let's create a function here. We just type in right over there. What are we saying? Use state not defined. We'll say use state. There we go. All right. So instead of this console.log, we can wrap a use effect in here. Okay. So I'm going to say use effect. And then inside here, what we're going to say is we're going to say check authentication, something like this. It's going to be an asynchronous function, async. And then what we're going to say is await new promise. Okay. Resolve. And then what we want to do is, let's look at this. We'll say set timeout to resolve, and we can just set a time. I'm going to say 50 milliseconds. And then what we'll say is set loading to false. Then we want to run this, check authentication, and we'll run that every time there's a change in the user. Let's go ahead and save. Use effect's not defined. Use effect, we'll bring that in. Let's go ahead and save. So if we refresh here, let's go down here. We actually need to add this to our code down here. So pretty easy. What we're going to say in here, we can just say we'll add it in here. So let's say if loading is true, display null, else we'll check if there's no user. So let's go ahead and save that. So there you have it. We're not flashing the login and sign up anymore, which was kind of a poor experience. So looks pretty good. So now for our profile route here, our profile link, we only want to show our profile link if we're authenticated. If we're not authenticated, so we go ahead and sign out, we don't want to show that. Okay. And before we do that, let's go to our profile page here. Okay. And on our profile page, we'll say, instead of profile page, let's go ahead and say, we'll say welcome, or let's say, we'll say you must be let's say logged into view this page is a protected route. Okay, so how do we know if we're logged in? We're going to do something similar to the nav bar, just like we did the nav bar. We come over here and we'll just take this right here. So let's copy this. We'll import that. And then again, just like we did, we need to import this from import, and we want to grab the user auth, just like that. And outside of multiple code, let's say, what am I doing here? Oh, whoops. Import user auth, that's not right. React. Oh, duh, const. There we go. Maybe I need a drink. So again, we need to add this use client at the top here. So we'll say use, clapping with one hand, use client. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing with our loading state here. So let's just go back to our nav bar. And I'm going to copy that there, that use effect. And we'll put this up here. There we go. We'll put that right in there. And we don't need to change any of this code. We'll leave it all the same. And of course, we need to import use effect. Use effect. There we go. And then inside here, we're going to show basically if we need to install there, const loading, set loading equal to use state, and then by default set to true. So if you, damn it. So if we're not logged in, okay. So if we're not logged in, we want to see you must be logged in to view this page. It's a protected route. Else we want to say something like welcome username. You're on the profile page. This is a protected route. So what we're going to say in here, okay, we'll say if user is true, we're going to say something else. And if the user is true, we'll say welcome. We can say user.display name. You are logged into the profile page, a protected route. Else we'll say you must be logged in. We'll just copy this, or cut it rather, and we'll paste it in there. Okay. So let's save that. See if we have any errors. You must be logged in to this page. It's a protected route. Let's log in. Welcome client. You are logged in the profile page. It's a protected route. If we log back out, it changes. That looks pretty good there. Now, one more thing. Let's log in. I want to show you this. So if we refresh this, you see this flash of content. You must be logged in. Again, a poor user experience. We could make it null, but this would be a good opportunity to, since it takes up a large real estate portion of the page, we can actually add in a loader. Okay, so we added our loading state, and we're going to add in a GIF. But real quick, what we're going to say here is if we'll give this space. If loading is true, we'll show something else. We'll show something else here. Oh, it's user. So inside here, we can just say we'll give a p tag, something like that. Let's go ahead and save. So there, that's a little bit better. We say loading, but if you want to use something like a GIF, like an actual loader, we can go ahead and add that in as well. So I'm going to create a new component. Okay, I'm just going to call this, we'll call it spinner loader, whatever, spinner.jsx. REFCE is going to be our functional component. Now I'm going to pull over this spinner that I'm going to be using, okay? And it's just a GIF, so feel free to grab that. That was it right there. Feel free to grab it from my GitHub, or if you can just use the text loading, either way is fine. So what we're going to say here is import image from next-image, /image, and then what we're going to need here, I'm going to say import loader, and this is going to be our spinner here from spinner.gif. Just like that. And now we're going to add that in here. So this div here, we're going to have the Next.js image tag, source. I don't know why I said that. Source, a loader, and we'll give it alt of loading, something like that. Okay. And then we'll give this a class name. We're going to say width full H screen, and then we'll say flex items center, and justify center. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And do we import that? Let's go back to our page here, and we need to import our our spinner here. So we'll just say import, and our page here is going to be the spinner page. So we'll say import spinner from components from components / spinner. Okay. Now let's just use our spinner here. Instead of this loading, we'll just add our spinner. Just like that. So let's go ahead and save. Oh, there you go. Cool. So if we refresh, instead of the loading, we have that little spinner there. So feel free, if you want to change the sizing of this, anything like that, feel free to do so. But this is kind of more or less how we can add things in there. So pretty cool. Now next, let's go ahead and log out. And one more thing, we still have this profile page. So you must be logged in to view this page. So why would we even display this link here in our nav bar? So let's go to our nav bar here, okay? And we'll just scroll down to our profile page. And just like we did with everything else, with our user status, like we did with our loading, what we'll say is if there's no user, we'll be null, else we'll render something else out on the screen, and we'll just render this out on the screen. So we can just move that up one. We'll go ahead and save. So right now, we refresh that, gets rid of the errors. So if we refresh, we're on our home page, we're on our about page. Let's go to our profile page. Loading, you must be logged in to view this page. It's a protected route. And again, we can't see it. And there's different ways you can do this. You can add in a redirect or whatever. This is just the way I set it up. So let's go ahead and log in. It logs us in with Google. Welcome, Clint Briley, which is pulling in our name from our Firebase Google Authentication. And there you have it. Let's go ahead and log out. So there you have it, guys. Next.js 13, Firebase, sign in with Google. Hope you got some value out of the project. If you did, smash the like button. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.